It's Tuesday, the 17th of February, 2026. And right now, the time is, I'm not sure. It's around 7 o'clock p.m. It's like it's around 5 after 7. Now, what I'm thinking about right now is, before our basement at 7613 Sebago Road was remodeled, and it was just an unfinished basement. So that would mean probably before America's Man of the Year beat my mother. He savagely beat her. And before that beating, I'm not sure of the date, but it must have been near the time she was about to be beaten. The Man of the Year's sister from Pennsylvania was visiting with her husband, okay? And the parents were in the basement, the unfinished basement, seated around a table down there, like one of those round card tables that was down there. And I was at the top of the stairs listening to what they were saying. Probably I was passing by and heard them talking and stopped because the tone of their voices was, how do you say this? It was, I don't know, how do you describe it? It was unfriendly toward my mother. I heard the Man of the Year and his sister, they were drilling my mother. They were down there possibly by candlelight, or just low lighting, and they were just socializing down there because the record player was down there in that room at the bottom of the stairs, which was like a family room. Never used by the family, but okay, at that time it was an unfinished basement, so it wasn't like a family room. It was just the great big unfinished basement with the cement floor and the iron poles and so on. Now, they were saying to my mother, they were saying threateningly almost that they wanted to go to this burlesque house. There was, as far as I know, there was only one. It was the Silver Slipper. It was the only burlesque house in Washington, D.C., as far as I know. Maybe I'm wrong, but so they were saying to her, "Why you don't want to go?" And my mother said, "No, I'm not going to that." She was talking like a person who had religious and moral scruples about going to such a place. She did not want to go, and they were saying, "Why not? Why don't you want to go?" In this kind of voice like that, and including the Man of the Year's sister. Now, the Man of the Year's sister's husband, who was a World War II hero, so to speak, not recognized as a hero except in our family, because he had won a Bronze Star, actually 4 we find out when he passes away, but at that time we were aware that he had won at least 1 Bronze Star for his participation in World War II as a tank driver and commander in Europe against Hitler's Nazis. So he was silent. He wasn't saying anything. He never said anything. But his silence was weighty. I mean, I knew he was down there, and he wasn't disagreeing, apparently, with the desire to go to this burlesque house. So the focus was on my mother, and they were saying to her, like she was some kind of a stick in the mud, a killjoy for them. She didn't want to go to this burlesque house. But the tone of the voices was almost threatening. You don't want to go. Like, what are they going to do to her if she doesn't go? That kind of thing. What are they going to do? We're going to beat her up or what? For not want to go to this place. So the next thing that happened down in that basement was that the Man of the Year savagely beat my mother down there. Now, I guess they did not go to that burlesque house that night. My mother said no, and they didn't go. Okay, now, I'm saying that my interpretation of what was going on with the Man of the Year and my mother at that time was my mother had 5 children, okay, and she didn't want to have any more. And so she wasn't practicing birth control the way people do now because it was against her religion. She was a Catholic, and Catholics were not to practice birth control. They were not to use condoms. They were not to use pills or anything of the kind. So, as my mother explained to me later, she said that she used what was called the rhythm method, meaning you tried to time your sex according to your monthly rhythms of your monthly cycle, your ovulation, and the rest of it. And you were to pay attention and have sex when you were not capable of having a child. This was not done with taking temperature of your body or anything like that. It was just, I don't know how women would have done it, but it was called the rhythm method. My mother explained to me many years later. She said that was her method of birth control. She told me the rhythm method, but obviously it didn't work. She had 5 children. So she didn't want to have more children. She never said this to me. This is my theory. And the Man of the Year wanted to have lots of sex. Okay, so he probably didn't care if he had more children, but she was taking care of the children and she didn't want more. 5 was enough for her. So what was probably his proposal for birth control? Flip-flop sex. So he was a flip-flop man. So he was probably practicing flip-flop on a woman. I'm not going to say her name, but she was a secretary. He was always talking to me about her. He would say to me some things like, I'm going to make up her name. I'm going to say her name is Janet. That wasn't her name. But he would say to me at times, you don't like Janet? I think, for God's sake, I don't like Janet. Who the hell is Janet? This is the way this man was. You don't like Janet? Oh, Janet. Janet, for God's sake. So, I'm saying Janet was probably his flip-flop partner at work. Probably. Okay? Now, it's not easy, probably, to arrange these flip-flops at work. Probably. And so, the Man of the Year needed more than Janet, and he needed my mother to have sex with him, and she was not wanting to have much sex. Look, I figured out that she didn't really love this man very much because he turned out much different than what she had thought he was going to turn out to be. He turned out to be an alcoholic. He was extremely abusive, and she wasn't prepared for that when she was going with him and when she married him. After she married him, she found out he was quite a different person than he had been before she got married to him. But for whatever reasons, and I could go into that, she decided to stay with him, even after he beat her up the way he did. Now, I'm saying that don't you want to go to that burlesque house was a way of asking her, why don't you have flip-flop sex with the Man of the Year? Maybe his sister did that kind of thing with the war hero. Why don't you do it? Well, my mother's sister was a nun, okay, and they were very close. They grew up together, slept in the same bed together. They were very close. They didn't have a mother, so they mothered each other through childhood and adolescence, and they were very close throughout their life, all the way throughout their life. And so with a nun, a lifelong nun as a sister who my mother loved dearly, flip-flop sex was not something that she ever wanted to do, I'm sure. So the beating she got was probably because she wasn't wanting sex with this guy, and she wasn't going to permit flip-flop sex, and he was a flip-flop man, and so he beat her up. Okay, now, I'm saying that was the question there when they were asking her, don't you want to go to this burlesque house? Why not? Why don't you want to go? They could, over and over they were saying that. Why not? She was, no, I'm not going. Like that. So that's my opinion of what they were talking about back then. Flip-flop sex. Now, fast forward some years and a few years, okay, but for me, in delayed maturation, those years took forever. The years from like 13 to 18, those 5 years, they went so slowly. Could have been 50 years had gone by in my life. It was that slow because I was so out of step with everybody my age due to this delayed maturation. Time just was almost at a standstill for me. So I'm now forgetting the point I wanted to make. I'm entering what I call an emotional blackout from what I just said about myself. Let me put this on pause, see if I can get back on track. Hold on. Okay, I was saying fast forward a few years. It seems like forever, but that must have happened when I was around 12 years old, maybe. And fast forward to maybe I'm 17, 18. And my mother's saying to me in a very bizarre way, she's saying, well, did you guess what? And she's saying, my cousin, Chris, who was gay, he was an adopted child, he was gay from birth. She was saying, Chris has lost his virginity, I hear. Chris has lost his virginity. And you know what that means. He'd probably been flip-flopped. He was the bottomer type of a queer. He was a very effeminate, girly type boy who played with dolls and all that. He was very effeminate. So when my mother's saying that about him, it means he was flip-flopped. But I was thinking to myself, why is my mother talking this way? This is completely out of line for her. I've never heard her talk this way before. Like I should feel that it's something to be laughed. It's a laughing matter that Chris would have done something like this. I think, first of all, it was something I didn't want to hear. And I didn't want to be exulting at what I would consider to be misfortunes happening in the life of this poor kid who had a life of suffering from birth. I didn't like to hear him being mocked. Ever. So you're going to mock this kid who's had this awful life? I didn't think it was right, even from my mother. So she's going to mock this kid and she's going to mock him about losing his virginity. This way I thought this was disgusting. And my mother was talking this way. And so I'm saying to myself, that is an indication that my mother gave up her virginity. She gave up to the man of the year and had flip-flop sex with him and went on. And I got to say that under their bed was a jar of Vaseline. Now, Vaseline back then, I think, may have been used as a gel during sex. But when I think about the way my parents were, I'm not sure they had much sex. And if they did, it might have been flip-flop sex because my mother didn't want to have children. Now, did they know they couldn't have children when they reached the age of around 40? Maybe not. A woman can still get pregnant. My wife did. She had 2 miscarriages at around the age of 40, 41. So a woman can get pregnant, but doctors told us that it's unlikely for a woman that age to have a baby because what they said to me was the eggs are no good. The woman's eggs are no longer any good at that age. That's what they said, and more detail on that I can't provide because that's all they said to me. Now, I'm saying, let me think about my mother's age. She was 29 years older than I was, so when she was 40, I was 11. right? So by the time I'm like 7, well, that conversation about the strip club, whatever they're called, that happened around then when I was 11, 12, when she was just at that age when she would have wanted to stop having children, okay? And she was around 40, and a woman can still get pregnant then. And I'm sure they didn't know at the time that the pregnancies were not likely to bring a healthy child. They knew nothing of the kind. And my mother was not wanting to have sex, as I said, with the man of the year. She didn't like him really. He was a drunk, and he was mean as hell. He was what you call a mean drunk, so he was mean to her and he was mean to everyone. But, he was home alone, so everybody scattered away from him when he was drunk, and my mother had to live with him. So this is my theory about what was happening, and the numbers do bear me out here. That she must have been around 40 at the time of that conversation, and everything I'm saying is all the facts are consistent with my theory of what was happening. So those are my thoughts as I'm here, just living out my life at the age of early 70s as somebody who's like under house arrest in the United States of America. Today is, I think I said at the beginning, the 17th of February, 2026, and the time must now be around 7:30. I look at my watch. It looks like it says around 7:25 p.m. Okay, I want to add this footnote to my comments on the Burlesque House conversation before my mother was savagely beaten by the man of the year. Now, I just realized while listening to that the man of the year did say that when he was a kid, like around between 10 and 16, a group of boys beat him up and stole his bicycle. And the way he told the story was that it was a pretty bad experience, much worse than the only things he would say about it, which were that was all. But his body language, his facial expressions, and the rest of it showed that he must have really got a beating. And my theory is now suddenly bolstered by what I was just saying. I didn't even realize it. See, the man of the year savagely beat my mother, and I was saying probably because she was refusing to allow him to flip-flop her as a method of birth control. And what am I saying? I'm saying that he was savagely beaten and flip-flopped by a group of boys when his father was off looking for work and left him alone in the hillbilly hills there of the coal mines south of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's what happened. That introduced him to the world of flip-flop sex. He was overtaken by a group of boys who saw he was helpless there, a little boy, 10, 11, 12, whatever, alone, probably for weeks. And they descended on him, and they must have given him a savage beating, and they flip-flopped him as well. It was probably a horrific experience, and so when the man of the year is finding that my mother will not engage in flip-flop sex with him, what do I say made him a doctor? He went and allowed himself to be flip-flopped by the rich doctor there in Bethesda. I'm going to make up a name for him. Call him Dr. Seven. The rich doctor from Bethesda. He allowed himself to be flip-flopped by him, and that guy made him a doctor, but he never came to our house or talked to any of us on the phone or had anything to do with us, but he was supposed to be like God in our family. He didn't live far away, and we never met him, and we never talked to him ever. Yet right before he dies, my mother says to me, he talked to Dr. Seven on the phone today. And he says, he told your father he loved him And your father told him that he loved him as well. I figured, oh, gross. Well, at the time I didn't think that they were flip-flop buddies, but since then, as I've gotten safer and safer to think about such things, I say, obviously that was their relationship, or we would have met the man and it would have been normal, right? What did the man of the year tell me about when this man passes away without any children? He says he leaves his entire fortune to a lesbian couple, he tells me. Okay? That's more in support of what I'm saying about the relationship. It was one of these, what I would call a flip-flop relationship between two men who do this kind of thing when they can't find a partner in the opposite sex. They can't find a woman. They are not going to autoeroticize the self to sexual climax. They are not going to do that. And so they'll stick their jiffy up the box of another man, boy, woman, whatever. To me, that's gross, but to them, this is preferable to autoeroticize the self to sexual climax. You'll have to kill me. Never. I'm entering emotional blackout here. I gotta put this on pause. You see, the man of the year's argument with my mother was he became a doctor by allowing one of these rich dudes to flip-flop him. And she's not gonna have sex with him. She's enjoying the house that he's got, the nice car, the nice salary. He's a doctor. She's enjoying all this, and he got it out. He allowed a rich man to flip-flop him. How did it all start? With a savage beating. He's telling her, okay, you don't want to do this, you're going to get what I got. And he beat her up. Because that was his introduction to flip-flop sex. He was savagely beaten and flip-flopped. So, she's saying no, probably he's a 10, 11, 12-year-old boy. He's encountering this group of kids. He's saying, no, I'm not going to do that. They beat the hell out of him and flip-flopped him. That's his introduction to that. And he becomes a lifelong flip-flop man, and everything happens with my mother as I say it did. And that explains the entire thing. It explains that there's only one savage beating like that too, right? He only had the one from that group of boys. He wasn't beat up at any other time.